LabCoatAgents podcast.
Welcome back, LabCoatAgents, to another episode of the podcast. And today we're gonna go deep on some tech. I've got a guest here who is about 30 million times smarter than I am. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation with him because he's relatively new to real estate, but not necessarily new to the tech side. And this guy comes with some strong credentials as he attended business school at MIT a few years back and has a past career at Goldman Sachs. So I think just those two things in and of itself tell you the caliber of guest we're going to be talking today. And now he is fast forward and he has built a piece of technology for the real estate world, which we are going to talk about today, that I think all of you are going to find fascinating and interesting, and many of you might even want it in your business. But before we get to that, let's introduce our guest, Mr. Yishi Zuo. Welcome to the podcast, my friend, and let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the very kind words, Jeff. My name is Yishi. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. As you alluded to, I started my career in finance, started at Goldman Sachs Investment Banking, then worked for an investment firm for a few more years. And in 2016, I decided to transition into tech entrepreneurship, went off to business school at MIT Sloan, started a business while I was a full-time student at Sloan. It has nothing to do with real estate. It's a service that finds experts on demand for paid 1-hour phone calls. And I grew that business with a few co-founders from 2016 until 2020. And then last year, and this is all in Boston, last year I actually moved from Boston back to the West Coast. And in the process, I started exploring other entrepreneurial ventures. And that's kind of how I got into real estate. I connected with one of my angel investors in my last venture. He's a real estate guy from the greater Boston area, self-made kind of guy, owns a couple hundred properties in the greater Boston area, started with single family homes, then duplexes, some multifamily stuff now. And he's an expert in real estate. And he and I just got to talking around fall of last year. And we started doing some exploration, and one thing led to another. And I realized, oh, this industry is pretty interesting. I'd like to learn more, talk to more people, and maybe build something. And here we are.
That's pretty fascinating. So let's rewind for a second. And so tell us a little bit, because this is really new. I mean, we're talking less than 12 months. What led you down the path? So you come from tech. So tell us a little bit more about your background at like a Goldman Sachs. So what led you to Goldman Sachs? So you said you came from the Bay Area. What led you down that road? And then obviously into MIT. I'd like to learn a little bit more about you, because I think it's pretty fascinating.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk. I love to talk about myself and share more knowledge for your audience. So I'm a first generation immigrant, came to this country when I was 6, born in China. My parents, we had a pretty humble upbringing. I remember I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment when I first came to America with both my parents. We shared a room. Eventually we just grew our finances, became more stable. And but growing up, I'm an only child as well. There was always that drive in me. My parents came to this country. I want to make something of myself. So went to college. I wanted to work in something that would be a lucrative career personally. And I chose investment banking mainly because during college, that's the thing to do, the hardest quote unquote thing you could do, relatively well-trod path. And fortunately, I was able to get a job at a pretty good investment bank. And that's why I went into Goldman Sachs. And I transitioned after that to become an investor, largely because I wanted to figure out what I want to do. I didn't want to stay in investment banking forever. It's the analogy I make for those who are unfamiliar with the difference between being an investment banker and an investor is investment banking, you're like a broker, in real estate. And as an investor, you're on the buyer side. So you're like an investment firm. So the principal agent difference is the best way I describe it. So that's my early beginning of my career. And I think as like by the time when I moved to America and like with my parents in 1996 versus like 2013, 2014, when I was working at a hedge fund in finance, like my personal outlook on risk and my personal finances and as well as that of my family has changed a lot. We had made it to my parents, they had made it to middle class. I personally was working at a good job, and then my risk profile changed. I felt like I was in a good, stable position where I could take a risk. And I started doing like entrepreneurial side projects while I was working full time at the hedge fund. Unfortunately, those projects didn't go anywhere. I actually spent a decent amount of my own money that basically went to naught. But it did give me a taste of entrepreneurship. I realized, oh, this is kind of exciting. I feel like I could get better at this, and this is very rewarding. So I decided to do somewhat of a career pivot, and I wanted to deep dive into entrepreneurship. And that's why I went to business school, kind of for that career transition, meet co-founders, build my network, build my personal skill set. And that's what I did. That's what brought me to business school.
Fascinating. Where'd you go to school undergrad?
Oh, I went to UC Berkeley. So I grew up in the Bay Area, stayed local, worked in SF for 5 years after Berkeley as well. So very much so a Bay Area kid.
Very cool. And I'm asking these questions because honestly, and I think our audience can resonate with this. I mean, in the real estate world, it's a very entrepreneurial world, but not an entrepreneurial world where like your upbringing, like you have the upbringing. I mean, and the reality is if somebody tells me at 15 years old, I want to get into real estate, I say, get through high school just because, and scratch college. Don't even bother. Like there's no reason to, right? And so it's a different world. And I think a lot of real estate just professionals typically don't have an upbringing like this. So I think it's pretty fascinating. And maybe it's just me, and maybe this is just going to be a one-way conversation, but I like to give it some context because I think it's interesting. And I think people like you, I mean, obviously this is your first venture. So I'm guessing somebody like you who has the background that you have, you probably dove super deep over the last 10 months into just immersing yourself and consuming all things real estate so you could understand what the business is like, and then also where the gaps are, what the needs are. Is that a safe assumption?
Definitely, yeah. So before we started building any of the technology that we have, we certainly did a lot of research. I first started just Googling, reading about the industry at a high level, and diving into different niches. Like I spent a few weeks, maybe a couple months, just reading all about the MLS system. I had not heard of an MLS until, let's say, last September. And I actually reached out to a few people that work at MLSs, had some good conversations. And it's the whole industry is very interesting. The way there's all these like regional, I guess, quasi monopolies, or just straight up monopolies, the way that MLSs operate. And the interactions between the different brokerages, how you have to pay for data, and there's kind of like encroaching competition between like some of the larger brokerages and some of the MLSs. It's an interesting dynamic. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on how that will change, but that's kind of one of the first things I looked into. And as I was kind of going down the path of what the company that I'm working on now, Cagent, just started talking with more and more real estate agents. Just started out, I did some cold emailing agents, complete strangers, had a couple conversations, but most of the learnings came from warm, like first degree connections or warm intros to agents. So, and that was kind of the first inkling that, oh, real estate is very much so a relationship-based industry. I mean, it's kind of like a stereotype. I heard it so many times watching videos, talking with people, but it's very true. Just kind of the responses I get from a warm intro versus like a code email.
Yeah. Well, and what I was going to say too is that it's funny that you've been essentially in the real estate world since September, but yet you've probably done more homework on the industry than most real estate agents. And because, you just get into it for different reasons. Most agents get into this business because of the freedom, because of the flexibility, because of the opportunity. But they don't actually do a whole hell of a lot of homework. Their just first thought is, how do I get a buyer? How do I get a seller? And I'll figure it out from there, kind of thing. You have to take some tests, but that stuff is all just a bunch of BS, really. It doesn't necessarily apply to actually, doing business. And that's why you go work for a brokerage and you have a broker and you do all these things. But the hardest part is getting business, right? That's frankly, that is the hardest part. And that's what separates the best from the rest. And so, okay, so you've done your homework. Here you are, you fast forward to September, you're diving in. Where did it go from there? So when you guys said, okay, we want to do something, did you already have an idea of what you wanted to do? Or did you just say, let's do something and let's figure out where the opportunity is?
Yeah, good question. So I think we knew that we wanted to do something in real estate. We had a couple of very kind of rough ideas. One of the first ideas we were exploring had something to do with like comments on real estate listings. Like, why can't there be like Yelp-like listings on an open house? Why can't people comment on a Zillow or a Redfin, one of these like brokers or agent websites, like on the property itself, and have people respond in a thread? And that actually was what got me into looking into MLSs. And I realized that one of the reasons that doesn't happen is because MLSs have all these regulations about comments. And I think there's some protectionism there, just some kind of conservative bias. Like maybe it's valid where you don't want to ruffle any seller feathers, because the selling homeowner may be annoyed if potential buyers start commenting on the property. So as a result, a lot of MLSs straight up ban that. Like I know I looked into like Redfin try to do something like that. Only agents can leave comments, and even then it's kind of controversial. So after looking at that, I mean, I had some ideas, like maybe there's still a way to get around this stuff, like, but it would have been a real uphill climb. So after a few weeks of research, we put a stop to that avenue of exploration. Probably saved us months or years of time by not going down that route. And then we started looking into just the space more broadly. Throughout all this, I was talking with real estate agents all over the place. And after a few dozen of these conversations, a recurring kind of theme started popping up, which is that open houses are kind of annoying in that, especially during the sign-in sheet process, it's often awkward when visitors don't sign in, refuse to sign in, or sign in with fake information. And even, I mean, depending on the agent, some agents do this better than others. Sometimes some agents are better able to make a connection, build a relationship, but it's not easy. I mean, I know this better. I mean, not as well as some of your audience members do, but it's often awkward, and it's necessary in order to build a relationship, in order to create the next future lead. So I started learning a lot about open houses and how agents use open houses. For example, it wasn't clear to me as an outsider that open houses aren't solely used to sell the house. In fact, often that's like almost like a secondary goal. The primary goal of open house at times, and maybe some agents listening will disagree, but the primary goal is to generate more leads for the next opportunity. And there's a lot of interesting things that result from that I had no idea. And that's kind of where the conversation led, thinking about open houses as a whole.
Yeah, it's very true. I don't think, and I would say pre-COVID, that was almost damn near 100% of the reason why you'll hold open house. You do it because the seller thinks that's a good thing, so you're just doing it for them. But in the reality is you're doing it to drive buyer lead. Now, I would say, again, you guys came up with this idea during COVID, whereas during COVID, during the last 12 months or so, open houses are not even really necessary. I think when a house is about ready to be listed, you already know what's coming. And then this is cyclical. This is going to change. It's going to cycle out. But right now, I put a house on the market and it's like, who's going to offer, 50K, 100K more. And it's almost like a parade in open house at this point. You see videos online or on the news, and there's just, hundreds, 50 to 100 people waiting in line to go see this house so they can all just get into a bidding war against each other. And I guess, it's a good thing because like you say, I mean, as a real estate agent, if I'm holding an open house and I do get that's 50 to 100 potential clients right there, right? And so, yeah, I mean, how do I capture it? And this is old news. Like this has been going on forever, 5-10 years ago, before technology became what it is today. It was sign-in sheets. And how do you get people to sign in? It has since evolved, and there are CRMs and various technology platforms that that do have the QR code capability, or you put an iPad, on the counter and you have somebody sign in. Maybe you give away gift cards or ball tickets, whatever, to get people to do it. But you guys feel like you have found a way that is potentially more enticing and also free for the agent, for everybody involved, that gets more interaction, which is going to create a larger database for the real estate agent, right? As a result of open houses. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And that's through Cagent. So first of all, where's that name come from?
Yeah, great question. So we actually so Cagent.com, Kagent.com. We actually thought of a few different names that we were evaluating. We went on to one of those kind of brand like logo domain name websites and found a few that like we had some relationship similarity to real estate. And we actually polled 50 or so agents for their favorites. And Cajun was basically one of the clear winners. And we spent like a small amount of money, a reasonable amount of money to get the domain name. And that's really the origin story. We like the letter K, it's very strong sounding, obviously the word agent. And we wanted something that, over the next few years, as we hopefully grow, is kind of its own brand. So Cagent right now doesn't really mean anything, has some, people might think, oh, agent real estate, so that's good, but there's no like real like brand association other than that. And we wanted to start with kind of a clean slate. So that was kind of the naming process. And in terms of kind of where we are in the competitive landscape, as you're alluding to, yes, we are aware there are like open house sign-in sheet tools. There's other CRMs that have QR codes and whatnot. Basically, in our research of this space, we realized that our biggest competition isn't any other competing system. It's actually traditional like pen and paper sign-in sheets. So we did a poll or survey, something like 70% of the agents we talked to were still using pen and paper. So we saw that as an opportunity to help these agents upgrade, just streamline that process. And in terms of kind of some of our features that differentiate us from some of the other tools out there, definitely the free forever plan is a core part of it. Because we see our competition as pen and paper, and just given the nature of software, we think having a freemium model where the free plan is free forever, unlimited sign-ins, unlimited open houses, and basically a ton of the core functionality is there, and it's just a complete upgrade over pen and paper is the right way to go. So that's number one. The second thing that makes us different is this unique thing we do, and you kind of alluded to this too, like giveaway prizes. What we're doing is we're doing like a giveaway, a prize giveaway periodically. We're starting with once a month. We will take the people that sign in across everyone that uses our open house sign-in sheet across any geography. And we'll do a pool drawing where one winner will win $500. And that's based on how closely they guess the closing price of the house. So there's something unique about this contest, which is that it incentivizes visitors to, one, provide their real names and real emails when they sign in, and two, there's a 10 minutes after they sign in, they'll be asked to fill out a kind of a very quick 5-question multiple choice survey. And one of the questions is, guess the closing price of the house for a chance to win $500. And that is something that we actually talked to a few agents, and some agents told us that they've had great success doing like $100 giveaways, $500 giveaways, just like this. And not every agent does this. And we thought like, this makes sense. Like we could do it. We could just pay for the prize as a promotion and think of it as a marketing cost. So this feature combined with the free forever plan is what makes us unique. And basically we're essentially paying open house visitors, your open house visitors for the agents listing out there to sign into your open house, and you get their data. We hopefully upgrade some agents to a paid plan. That's how we plan to grow over time. So those are the two key features: the paid price survey, guess the closing price, and the free forever plan.
That's awesome. So what happens? So how does the software, how does the platform connect? So, let's just say I sign up for the free account and I do an open house. I get 25 visitors. there's this data. How do I extract it, or how do I connect it? How do I put it to my CRM? Does it? I guess it's pretty compatible in that regard.
Yeah, so we're going to use Zapier, however you want to pronounce it, to connect our system with any other CRM. I'm pretty sure all the CRMs have some Zapier integration webhooks, and we can assist with that as well if people are curious. And right now, you can also download a CSV and you can upload it yourself, or if you're not even using a CRM, you can download it as well. So there's a CSV download option, and then there is the Zapier integration very soon to come.
So, and then tell me this. So as I'm looking through the product, as I've looked through the product, it talks about even, includes live updates for your seller. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's a couple other features that are pretty exciting. So as we were doing user research, talking with agents told us that, it'd be kind of interesting if I could share updates with the seller. So they kind of are kept up to date of what's going on, and they're satisfied. So we have a feature. If you're running an open house, you see people come in, you have your dashboard. Obviously, you wouldn't want the seller you're representing to see everything, because it's a little bit overwhelming. You don't want them to contact the potential buyers and whatnot. But if the seller wants to know, okay, how many people have visited, like what's the status, we have a kind of a separate dashboard. It's a one-click button where you can give a link to the seller, and the seller can keep up to date on how many people have signed in, and so on. So that is the live update for the seller functionality. I might as well mention there's one other pretty useful feature that agents love, which is we have the ability to integrate your calendar, or more specifically your Calendly, or sometimes it's a Mixmax or a HubSpot calendar link. Basically, if people aren't familiar, this is separate from our company, but a lot of agents and people outside of real estate use these calendar links where you give a link to someone, let's say a prospective lead, and they can book time directly on your calendar. So we've structured our system such that you can take your calendar booking link through a Calendly or Mixmax or HubSpot and put it in our system. And at the end of when visitors signs in at the open house, they get a survey, and then at the end of the survey, there's a link whereby they can click to book a time with you to learn more about that neighborhood, to help you build the relationship. So that is a key feature that we realized, like agents really want this. So that's another cool feature we have.
That's really cool. So it's more reason why, as an agent, you probably should have your own Calendly or some sort of a calendar scheduling platform, correct?
That's right. Yeah. I don't work for any of these companies, but everyone should have one of these links. It's free, like completely free. It's really useful.
It's a lifesaver. Absolutely, it is 100%. It just makes life more efficient. That's a whole nother topic for another podcast, I think. Okay, so tell us this. So how does this work? I mean, obviously you said it's free, which I think immediately is probably going to get people with some guards up. Like, okay, nothing's free. Come on, Yishi, don't try to pull one over on us. So maybe describe how that works, and then what it is that you could then pay for, because even when you do get into the paid versions, they're very inexpensive. So kind of walk us through what the options are, and really maybe, let's be transparent with the audience. How is it that you're able to do this for free?
Yeah, good question. So that's actually a very, very good question. Like, how are some software free? Are we doing something nefarious with your data? Are we selling your personal emails? The answer is no, nothing like that. The reason why Cajun has a very powerful free tier is just the nature of the unit economics of software. So basically, it costs pennies on the dollar to host an open house using our software. Like the data that's stored on our systems, like the cost for us to handle that data is pennies on the dollar. So that's why it makes a lot of sense for us to offer a free version. And we know people listening to this podcast, some people are going to try it and they may be happy with the free version, just use it forever and never pay us. That's totally okay. That's just the nature of software. Now, obviously, how do we make our money? And we're pretty transparent with that in our pricing module. So there's a couple upgrades, and yes, they're pretty affordable as well. One is $25 a month. The other is about $50 a month. At the the first pay tier, the standard tier. You get everything in the free plan, which is unlimited open houses, unlimited sign-in sheets. And basically, we do this survey at the end of the open house for every visitor. And as the agent, if you're using the free version, you only get to see the aggregated responses. You don't see the individual responses of who responded to what. So you have the aggregate like estimate of the closing price across 25 people. You don't see who guessed what, and you also don't see like there's some other questions. If you're on the pay tier, you get to see the individual responses for each of the questions. Now, like some agents won't care about that, and that's okay. But we suspect that there will be some percentage of agents, it may be only 5 or 10%, maybe it's only the top agents who really, really want to analyze the data, and that's okay. Like I mentioned, like even if we have like 1 out of 20 agents sign up for the pay plan, if it costs us 2 cents per open house, and one agent starts paying for it, well, we just made a 80% margin or more than that. It's the math, I don't know the exact numbers, but the unit economics are very favorable. And that's just a fact about software in general, not just our company. And then the VIP, we have something that the highest tier plan, $50, it's a VIP plan. You get to brand the sign-in sheet with your profile picture, your phone number. There's a little bit more custom branding. So that is hopefully assuages any concerns about like what's the gotcha here. Really, the gotcha is just software is just really, really cheap, and this model just makes a lot of sense for a lot of companies, a lot of industries in general. People have probably seen this free thing in other industries as well.
Yeah. So would you say that, again, with your limited time in the industry, especially when you're talking to newer agents, which there's a lot of them nowadays, a lot of people, because of COVID circumstances, went and got their real estate license, right? And they don't know where to get their business. And then you couple that with the fact that there's 2 million agents and 1 million listings, right? There's just more people than there's business. That's a problem. That tells you that there's going to be a lot of people leaving the business, or there's going to be something's going to have to correct, right? But as a newer agent, younger agent, struggling agent, doesn't matter if you're new to the business, one of the techniques that they can use to go out and try to drive buyer business is going to an experienced agent, either in your market or in your office, and just saying, hey, I know you're going to have this new listing. Do you mind if I hold it open? And, obviously if that obviously everybody knows why you're doing that. So if an agent was to do something like that, I would imagine that it would behoove them to sign up for the software, because obviously this is the best way to then procure more potential buyers, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So this shows my ignorance of the real estate industry. When I was first getting started, I had no idea that this is something that real estate agents did. That real estate agents, when they're starting out, they will approach other more experienced realtors and ask, "Can I hold your open house for you?" And that was just kind of news to me, and it was kind of interesting. And definitely for these agents, these younger, hungrier agents who are desperate or really eager for leads, it makes a lot of sense whether you use our product or not to do these open houses, because frankly, given what I've learned about real estate over the past 9 and 10 months, is that open houses are a great way to meet potential leads. And it's good practice too. Like part of me, when I'm talking to these agents, I'm like, oh, this might be kind of fun. Like I kind of wish I was like an agent meeting people, because like open houses are a great way to build relationships and get more leads. And this kind of I want to bring up, like as I was doing research early on, like thinking about who our target agent is, because there's so many agents out there. Some agents have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. They have plenty of referral business. They don't need to hold open houses. They don't need to get lead information. People come to them. They have more business than they know what to do with. That's probably not the best customer for us. We are really looking for they tend to be younger, hungrier agents who either are already doing open houses to get more leads, or are very open to doing open houses. So that's really helpful when anyone's starting a kind of a new tech venture, to really figure out who the quote unquote persona is. Yeah. So I mean, real estate buyer personas, in the tech industry, you have kind of user personas. So our user persona is a younger agent. Age is less relevant than the mentality of the hungriness of wanting to get more leads, do open houses. So that is something we've indeed discovered.
Well, and I will say this too, even if I'm a team leader, if I want to grow a team, if I own a brokerage, this is another piece of technology that is a carrot dangler. It's something that, if you have a team and you're wanting to bring in young agents and groom agents or newer agents, maybe not young by age, you have to entice them with some value. And this could be that value because, like you said, if I'm an experienced agent and I'm a listing agent, which means I don't want to be taking buyers to look at homes. I don't want to be holding open houses. I got better things to do with my time, like, live, right? Because I'm not in that phase. I'm already past that phase. What a great opportunity to say, hey, we are going to invest in this technology, which is going to do a better job of when people are showing up to the open houses to grab their data, which means now I've just created a top of funnel lead. It's no different than running a Facebook ad. It's no different than most lead aggregators, even Google, PPC, any of that stuff. Those are top of funnel. That's stuff you're going to nurture. Arguably, that's somebody that went to Facebook not to search for homes, saw something as they were scrolling and was just a nosy neighbor. This is somebody that got in their car, drove however many miles to go look at a house. That's a warm lead. Maybe it's top of funnel, but it's warm, right? And I just don't think a lot of people think too much about it. So let me ask you one more question about this piece before I have one closing question for you. So when it comes to that difficult hurdle, which is how do I get people to sign in? Okay, so I assume you're going to encourage people, or maybe you provide something that says enter for a chance to win $500 just by signing in. Is there anything that you provide? And obviously it's also contactless, which is very important in this day and age. It's all very QR code based. But what do you do? What do you guys suggest to agents that are holding the open house to say, grab the open house attendees' attention with this? What is it? What's your thing?
Yeah, so every agent is different. So different agents have different tactics. Some agents prefer to print out our paper and post it and leave copies of it in different rooms so people can sign in multiple places if they forgot. Some people have a shared iPad in the front of the house, and it really differs based on the agent, the size of the house and whatnot. But generally, our slogan is that we want to make open houses fun. So agents, that's what we encourage agents to do. Really pitch this is a fun contest. It'll be fun. It's really easy, and it's no hassle at all. It's contactless and whatnot. So it does require some conversation between the agent and the visitor, and every agent's way of communicating will be different. But generally, the message is, hey, scan this QR code. It's a fun contest. Gets the closing price of the house, and you might win. So that is really the core message. Yeah.
I like it. And I guess the simplicity piece of this that you said in the very beginning is that because it is a QR code, essentially you could print out 15 of these and place them in every room of the house.
That's right. That's
right. Don't sign up, sign in for a chance to win $500.
Exactly.
But I guess agents could throw something. They could throw their own skin in it as well. Sign in for a chance to win $500 and get a $5 gift card to Starbucks.
Exactly. Or you get a free consultation, learn about the neighborhood, which agents would be happy to do that for free. It's not really a gift, but it's all about framing marketing, right? Agents are really good at selling, pitching things. So that should become as no surprise, but there's lots of different ways a good creative agent can take this. And that's why we're so excited, because there's a lot of directions where our product can go and really help the agents get more leads, build better relationships.
Awesome. So I've got a question for you. You weren't expecting this question. And I think, the real estate world, I've been in it 21 years, and I consider myself relatively young. Some might disagree, but there's plenty that are a lot older than me. And I think a lot of people have a little bit of an arrogance in real estate. Experience defines success. Experience defines wisdom. Which really isn't always true. And I don't think that way. Like I said in the very beginning, you're 30,000 times smarter than I am, and I stand by that. I'm sure you are. So I want your perspective from a unique perspective, which is young to the industry and probably just young in general. I'm sure you're a lot younger than I am. Where do you see the industry going from a technology perspective? You've done some pretty immersive homework. Again, like I said, in less than 12 months, you've probably done more homework about the industry than most agents have done in a 30-year career. They just wing it. So I'd like your opinion. Where do you see the industry going from a technology perspective, or what are you maybe looking at as you look out into the future?
That's a great question. I went to some like industry virtual conference a few weeks ago, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this. And from my perspective, maybe like relatively new to the industry, a lot of third party, like higher level views. I think it's really interesting what's happening, like the relationship between the MLSs and the different brokerages. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but like if you think about MLSs, they're so powerful, and they are a quasi monopoly, and they've made money for decades, and they'll continue to make money for decades. And some of the more ambitious MLSs are buying technology companies, building their own technology, doing some unique things, and because they want to grow even bigger. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some like mergers. I mean, some of the mergers are already happening between MLSs, but not a huge scale. But I could see the MLSs competing against the Zillows of the world, the big brokerages of the world. I don't know. This is just my perspective. The instant home buying thing is interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't really have too big of a skin in the game because I'm not a broker. I've never bought a house in my life. But I think it's very, very interesting. I don't know if that will end very well for the people that are doing the instant buying, because the algorithms can only get you so far. I think when things start to turn, it'll be very interesting to look at some of these big technology these big technology powered like auto home buying businesses, and as the market turns, they'll be stuck with huge balance sheet liabilities, and that's not good for the system. But hopefully the crash won't hurt the system too much. But I think they'll fall pretty hard when the market turns. Just given I don't know how fast their algorithms can react when it happens, but that's just pure conjecture. But algorithms did get skip the nation of trouble in like the financial crisis. So it also started kind of with real estate too. So, but we'll see what happens.
Do you foreshadow looking 10 years ahead? Do you think that you'll still be heavily involved in the real estate world?
Hopefully, that means Cajun is growing and thriving. Though I will say, we didn't talk too much about my last business, but basically my last business grew to like 7 figures in revenue, and we were getting to profitability, and I realized, like I can take a step back, be a chairman type of role. And that company is still going, by the way. I recruited a CEO to take over, still growing. I'm very much so a stakeholder and not running that day-to-day anymore. So if Deepbench gets to, or if Cajun, Deepbench is my last company, sorry about that. Cajun, this current real estate technology venture, it starts growing, get more and more traction. I'd love to bring on someone to like partner with, to run the business and scale the business with me. And eventually, like I'd like to operate in more of like a chairman type role, maybe invest in other real estate technology companies, or even like non-technology companies like brokerages and whatnot. So that's where I see this going. Like, that may change. Maybe I stay the CEO for 10 years, and that would be great. But real estate's all about relationships and partnerships. So I am I'm actively looking to partner with more and more individuals, other technology partners, brokers, and seeing what happens. So that's where I see myself, my role. Like I'm very flexible, but I'd like to stay in the industry in some capacity, and hopefully Cajun does well.
It's cool. I love it. Well, welcome to the industry. I can't speak for everyone, but I will speak for LabCoatAgents, which is, by the way, the biggest social media real estate group on the planet. And that it's good to have young blood, and it's good to have young, smart blood Not that there's anything wrong with the hustlers of the world, because that's what this industry is made of. But it's really good to have some intellect. And it's been fascinating just having a conversation with you. And hopefully we stay in touch, because I think that you're capable of doing some really big things in the industry.
I appreciate the kind words. I don't know how much intellect I actually have, but I will say, I do really respect the hustlers of the world. I consider myself like a bit of a hustler.
You're an entrepreneur, therefore you're a hustler.
Right. I have to sell, like, I've worked in different industries, sold different things. I do really respect it. And neither of my parents are entrepreneur or even business minded at all. So I've had to learn a lot of like the sales skills the hard way. So I really respect, especially the real estate agents who are like, it comes naturally for them. And I don't know if it comes naturally for me, but I've definitely had to work hard at it and get over some of the, like, it's natural, it's not comfortable just like always pitching, selling, but I really do respect the real estate agents who are able to do that effectively over the years.
Yeah, the best real estate agents are the best networkers. They're the best people. That is the reality of it, because you're not selling a product, you're selling yourself. And that's what makes real estate fun. That's the reality of it. You're changing people's lives. And even though it's super stressful and there's a lot of BS that goes along with it, at the end of the day, when you're sitting at the closing table and they just made the biggest purchase they'll ever make in their entire life, and their family's there and they're excited. I mean, that's a warm and fuzzy. And hopefully, and I don't see it happening in our lifetime, technology never replaces the human. I don't think it will for a long time, if ever. Because I just think the human interaction on a massive transaction like this is just, it has to be a part of the equation.
I would agree with that. Yeah. One last thing I'll say about the industry is, like, I've worked in different industries. I've talked with like decision makers in different industries, and definitely real estate agents are some of the most charismatic like people I've talked to. I've talked with some like brokers, like broker owners, and like, wow, you are really like charismatic. I can see like why people follow you. I'm like, wow, I wish I had your charisma. So that's just something, an interesting aside. I kind of like the people in this industry are definitely like fun to talk to.
Cool. Love it. It's good. It's good to hear from that perspective as well. So last thing, obviously you already mentioned it. It's kagent.com. If you want to go learn more, kagent.com. This is super simple. Yishi, if somebody wants to connect with you personally, what's the best place to do that?
Yeah, so my email is probably the best way, yishi@kagent.com. You can follow me on Twitter as well, YISHIZUO, and my pretty unique name. You can Google me. I have a blog and all sorts of stuff, and yeah, pretty easy to find.
I love it, man. I really appreciate you being a guest on today. Folks, go check this out. If you don't have technology that is working for you in this capacity at an open house, you don't have a QR code that they can walk in and just scan. If you're using pen and paper, I'm sorry, but it's time to retire or evolve. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're just creating more work for yourself. This is so easy. They have a free option. You might as well test it out. Go check it out. Kagent, kagent.com, pronounced Kagent. And check this out. We'd love to hear your feedback. Yishi, thank you again. And, hopefully the next time we talk to you, you're on to like 7 or 8 ventures and changing the world. So.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Yeah. Thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone listening out there.
LabCoatAgents Podcast.